When I first got into college, I moved into the dorms and I thought everything was going really well. Then that isolation and the loneliness definitely started hitting, and I didn't think I wanted to keep doing college. That kind of started developing a lot of that anxiety and depression. And my sophomore year was where everything kind of fell apart. I was really going through a hard time with bullying, had some other mental issue stuff going on, and I had to be pulled out of school. And I was in and out of the ER because of panic attacks and, just stress, anxiety. It took quite a while for me to open up to my parents about it, reflecting back on my time that, I did keep to myself for so long. Like, I wish I didn't do that. Speaking about it wasn't actually as scary, and it was the best thing I could have done.
Hey there, welcome to the Mental Perk podcast. I'm Carla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandy Mock, entrepreneur, author, and community leader. And we're here to talk about real people, real issues, and real talk.
Well, welcome back to the Mental Perk. We have Carter here. He is a first-year student in the college at University of Texas at Arlington. He is an audio production major and participates in a band and also spends time in the gym working out with his friends. He has grown through his own experiences in therapy, learning ways to manage the mental health and physical health as a young adult. Carter is an advocate for mental health awareness and is using his own personal experiences to spread the word around campus.
Oh, we love that.
Welcome,
Thank
Carter.
I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about college, because, I taught you maybe a year ago, and I don't know really what's been going on in your world since college started.
It's definitely been a while, and a lot has happened. I guess I'll start from, when I first got into college. I moved into the dorms and I thought everything was going really well. And then that, idea that, oh no, now I'm alone. And I started getting the isolation and the loneliness definitely started hitting. And I didn't think I wanted to keep doing college within that first week or two.
It was really tough transition for you.
It was.
We hear that a lot with college students, and Brandy and I have a passion for college-age kids because, I say that young adults, right? But we have a passion for that because it is such a hard transition, and I don't think people give enough awareness to that.
And, I think even just adding on to that, I came from a household that was very supportive and, always there for me. And, being alone for the first time was very surreal. And after a while, it just kind of starts to sink in like, okay, I'm not going home tonight. Like, this is where I'm going. I got to go to class tomorrow. I have to make my own choices. And it's definitely a change, but it's, a good change. I think that I've started to adapt to and learn, more about myself with living by myself because there's no one else to tell me what to do, right? I have to start making decisions for myself and, what can I do to better myself and how am I going to get through college?
Well, during this time, how did you incorporate that support from your family in a different way?
So I definitely talked to my parents a lot for that first bit, calling my mom a lot. And then, as I started going through more and getting through probably about halfway through my first semester, I finally started to kind of break away just a little bit and start adding that separation between me and my family. But they would always come and visit, and I am in band, so they would come visit my band concerts. So, that was always a good time to see them and interact with them and kind of catch up. We'd go have dinner afterwards or something. And that was kind of my way of interacting and keeping in touch with them. And they would always be very supportive if I needed something. They were there. I could always call them, pick up the phone, like, hey, Carter, what's going on? How can we help you? Is there anything else you need? They'd bring me cases of water if I needed them.
You know what,
That's
though,
so
just having
nice.
but Carter, you saying that you have that family support, that's such a huge deal because I think, just being in school for a year, not everybody has that.
Not everybody does.
And some of them are coming from across the world. They don't even have friends. So let's say you're from around here. You could go there and maybe you don't have mom and dad there or your siblings, but you may have someone, these people are coming from all over. I mean,
Well, I think it's so important, and you got involved with one of the bands on campus, so I think that's important. How do you speak to really helping people understand the importance of getting involved with something on campus?
I would definitely say those first 2 weeks, and that's kind of a something that's going around in high school, and they tell you like you gotta like be out there, make friends your first 2 weeks. I found it very helpful to get yourself involved with clubs and organizations that you like, and sometimes you don't even know if you like something, so you just try it. And like for me in my orientation, I was introduced to leadership groups and other. I mean, there was even stray cats on campus, to take
I
care
love that. I've been right there with you. I'd have been all in that right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you find some and like name them and like they were kind of your pets away from home?
Yeah, exactly. So they would take care of them, and that was something that you could bond over.
That's a great idea, though.
It is
something that simple. I mean, I would never have thought about that. That's
I
would
have never thought about that.
Today's episode is sponsored by Hudson Financial Group. At Hudson Financial Group, their goal is to make sure your life is fully covered. Do you truly understand your current insurance coverages? Are you protected for the things you need and not paying for the things you don't? Come by and let them help maximize and understand your coverage. With access to multiple carriers, they'll find the best protection at your best price for you. Whether it's home, auto, farm, and ranch commercial coverages, bonds, life insurance, or financial planning, Hudson Financial Group is your one-stop shop for insurance and retirement needs. Stop by today.
It's really interesting to see how people are getting involved, and people can connect over such vague
simple things
that you would never even think like, oh, I'm taking care of a cat, but now I have 3 other friends who likes to take
I mean, you don't even, honestly, because it even beats going to a coffee shop and trying to force a conversation.
Yeah.
You're actually doing something you like to do with an animal that, y'all both share common interest in. That's
so therapeutic.
Pretty cool.
Back when I was in college in Abilene.
way
back then. The only thing I remember being on campus were crickets. And I don't really
none
think
of the animals liked you, Carla.
or maybe they just didn't like Abilene. So I don't know.
I just think they didn't like you.
We might have seen some armadillos or something. I don't know.
Well, I know lots of college campuses are known for I didn't think about cats, but squirrels.
Squirrels. No, I remember squirrels.
We have a lot of squirrels in there.
UT Austin does too.
They're pretty big squirrels.
And they like to come to you.
Are they the Gucci squirrels, the ones with the little fluffy tails? They're so cute.
Yeah, they'll run up the trees. And
Is that the actual name, Gucci?
It's my name.
Okay, see.
I guess that's what we'll call them.
The Gucci squirrels.
So, okay, I want to know a little bit, and you are a big advocate for mental health awareness, and that's something you're super passionate about. Tell us a little bit about your journey with mental health.
So, mainly it started when I was in middle school, kind of going into high school, so that 8th grade to 9th grade transition, and that was also COVID. So that was the time that, the transition from being in middle school to high school. And the worst part is that in my district, they would split you up. So
what do you mean, like split you up?
So the middle school would be divided into 2 different high schools.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So, your friends that you knew
may not be at the same
high school. And I know a lot of other districts are not like that. And you kind of funnel into the same schools and you try and stay together, through your graduation. But it was definitely hard. And then having COVID being at that time, you couldn't connect with friends, and I felt myself isolating a lot and becoming more depressed and, kind of hunkering down in my room, lights off, just keeping to myself.
Really isolating from everybody.
They got the double whammo too, though.
Yeah, they did get the double
college
whammo.
And then COVID. It's like, or middle school, middle school to
high
school
school with COVID.
It's like you got the double. Not sure what friends are going where.
Right.
But I think it really messed with kids your age. I mean, well, all kids of every age, but how you developmentally grow, because those are some huge developmental years, and you guys were put in the situation where you were actually pulled away from things you should be doing naturally and normally.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting you mentioned that. Going into my freshman year, it started virtually, and then they started moving us into in-person once, vaccines started becoming a thing, and they can, start to help,
be around each other,
of the virus. And when you would come back to school for the first time after, it felt like a year, you know, of not going on a campus and seeing other people. You know, you love your family, you're by them all the time.
But there's a but.
There's a little too much time with family, right? So.
But, you know, it was interesting to see the way people interacted after.
Was it awkward? Like, it was socially awkward, right?
It was really awkward. And, you know, with masks too.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, whenever I meet somebody, I like to see the full face, you know, face to a name kind of thing. But when you have a mask on, it's like, you don't.
But we miss so much communication with a mask, right? I mean, because so much communication happens in your facial expressions.
Right. Yeah. So then it's like half of you's covered, then you're only expressing half of yourself, so I only understand half of you. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, throughout high school, it did get better. People started, you know, opening back up and, you know, relearning how to interact with one another. But it was definitely a challenge going from complete isolation to being back in a high school where people had not seen each other. And this is my first time in high school. Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and just walking in and seeing other people with masks and like 6 feet, there's stickers on the ground that you had to, you know, stay far apart from each other, and, you know, changing passing periods, like you couldn't be near each other and whatnot.
Like, I had a hard time as an adult.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing this like literally step by step from like him being in a high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all of that happened.
And I didn't follow the rules very well. I can't imagine what would happen.
Still don't.
I know I'm not really good at that, but I can't imagine being in high school. I would have kept getting detentions or something. I'm pretty sure of it.
They'd have kicked you out.
Suspend that one.
Well, kicked you out. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, it's not about her. She thinks it is, but go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, you know, with going back to high school, you know, and meeting new friends, I did start to kind of meet the wrong people, you know, when I first got into high school, and that kind of started developing a lot of that anxiety and depression that, you know, I never really talked about until maybe my sophomore year. And my sophomore year was where everything kind of fell apart. I had some other mental issue stuff going on, and I had to be pulled out of school, and I had to do other, you know, therapy outside of, you know, the high school. So I kind of went off the grid for a while. No one really knew where I was, and people still don't really know what happened. But I was really going through a hard time with bullying. And
I remember you telling me that, and it was such a hard time. And I think I think kids have become more impactful with their bullying, using anonymous sources and really hitting, you know, really hitting where it hurts. And I think that bullying has taken on a whole new light.
It's different. Yeah.
Especially with like social media.
Yeah. Yes.
You can hide behind a name and a profile, and it's not even, you don't have no idea who it is.
It's almost sometimes impossible to know where things are coming from, who's involved, you know. But so the bullying was happening, and I had to be taken out because I didn't feel safe at the high school. It just got that bad.
Was that severe?
It was that bad.
It was. And it was so bad that I actually started having a lot of stomach pain. And I was in and out of the ER because of panic attacks and, you know, just stress, anxiety, and my actual heart would flutter, and I would just.
When you're experiencing severe mental health issues, a lot of times it can come out in physical form, a psychosomatic form. So you were experiencing that quite a bit through really the rest of high school, right?
And then it really took that turning point when my pain got so bad that I ended up being in the hospital, and they thought that my appendix ruptured. So they actually ended up taking my appendix out because they thought that was the issue, and that was the same symptoms, and my anxiety was manifesting that pain. And, you know, to a doctor, that's like, you know, you need to get it out at that point. So they took it out, and they said it was fine. And I thought it was over. You know, I was like, okay, you know, like, if that was the issue, like, whatever. And a month after my surgery, I started having the pain again. And I realized that there was more going on than just, you know, something physically. And that's when I really started to dive into, you know, mental health. And I reached out to a therapist, and I've been working with her for 5 years now.
Okay.
So she's really great, and I love working with her, and she's, you know, helped me get past those hurdles of, you know, confronting some of those fears. And, you know, it was so bad to the point where if I saw the person, I would just like panic.
Wow.
And it was like a trauma response.
So I hear you saying this. You talked about before your family being such a support to you. While you're going through this, before you go into therapy, are you able to share with your family what's going on with you to the point of going, this is why I'm internally having so much pain here physically because of all the stress that's put on you? Did they see that? Was it something you had to go to them for? Or is it something they kind of, y'all meshed together? Or is it something they came to you and said, you're not right, something's off?
So it took quite a while for me to open up to my parents about it. I was very scared. And even with bullying.
Was the fear from judgment, or was it?
It was, fear of judgment.
Okay. Would they believe you? Would they not believe you?
And also just not wanting to burden it to you.
I think that's also another point in that a lot of other people don't also share their mental health issues is because they feel like they're burdening someone else. Yeah. And I think, reflecting back on my time that, I did keep to myself for so long, like I wish I didn't do that, you know, and I realized that, speaking about it wasn't actually as scary, and it was the best thing I could have done because, I was suicidal at the time, and I just was kind of tired of everything. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. And, they opened me up, and a little bit of pressure kind of push, like, hey, like, what's going on? We got to do this. We got to figure it out.
You got to get it out because.
And your family stayed on it, right? They were like insistent that we're doing this.
Very insistent. I mean, there was, if anything was wrong, I mean, they would just be right there, and at times I do feel bad for not telling them at first because I know that, it can be very stressful for a parent to watch a child, go through something that they don't know what's going on.
Because they didn't know that it was emotional. And to them, they were seeing, is he getting into these behavioral issues? Is something else going on?
Is it drugs? Is it something? I mean, as parents, that's kind of what we do. We just kind of just pick apart. It's a layer of onions. We just kind of peel it back. And it's, I know from a mama's standpoint, it's scary seeing your babies hurt but not knowing how to, we're fixers. We want to fix our babies.
My mom's the same way.
We just want to fix you guys, right? Yeah. And when you see your child struggling and you know that you can't fix them, that they're going to have to articulate how to help fix them. Right. That's the struggle.
And if there's one thing that we can do with your generation, it would be to get you guys really, and I think you're better at it than our generation, of talking about what's going on with you, talking about your feelings, because I feel like the relief comes, the healing comes when we do that. I think your generation is starting to really get that, and people are promoting it more, and I just can't wait to see the future and how people handle mental health.
It makes my heart happy.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's, our generation, you didn't talk about it.
It's like you suck it up.
But at the same time, we didn't have the bullying either.
I mean, there was bullying, but I don't think not to the level.
The bullying we had back then was you wrote a note and everybody knew who
and
your
everyone
was.
did.
They knew it was
or you
blah,
did
blah,
little
blah.
mean girl kind of stuff on the side or whatever.
But you did it in front of them. That you weren't hiding behind the platform.
Right. It wasn't anonymous.
And then we didn't talk. So we had bullies, but we didn't talk about depression.
Yeah.
Now you're getting more to talk about depression, but man, the bullies are like ramping up on you. It's like 10 times worse than what it was for us.
It's almost like they take advantage of the fact that, people are being open about it. So now it's like, you're the easy target because now I know. And
I didn't think about it like that either.
That's true,
I mean,
though.
It really sucks, and I mean, one thing about my generation, like you said, I wish like we wouldn't do that. Like, I don't understand the whole mean, like I don't.
There's supposed to be this acceptance and of things and non-judgmentalness, but I feel like through social media platforms, people are more judgmental.
Yeah, because, you can. All it takes is just one send, and you don't even have to confront the fact that you're saying something to someone, because I'm willing to say that if people were to start saying things to people's faces that they would say online, I don't think people would say it as much.
No, that's what I'm saying. We didn't have that back. I mean, you fought it out. Literally, it was fisticuffs. I'm not.
There were a lot of fist fights at school. 100%. Yeah,
we've had quite a few of those.
Y'all take it to a different level.
And it's all recorded. And it's all recorded.
Battery and assault. We're like kind of, we're legal but not legal. But
close enough.
The stuff I see is like,
it's nuts.
Holy cow.
It's nuts.
I would not make it as a teacher, and I would not make it as a parent.
God bless teachers.
God bless them.
Yes, absolutely.
Administrators, teachers, and even students, though. These poor students that are having to go through stuff. So,
but as we're doing mental health awareness, I really hope that we're bringing awareness to using social media for good, not evil, right? I feel like that is the reform that really needs to happen over this next generation is, it's okay. Social media is not going anywhere and it's got a lot of pluses. We got to start using it for those things and not for tearing people up. I just think that's so important.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I feel like, recently with the USC challenge, the Ice Bucket Speak Your Mind thing, that was really influential for a lot of people to bring up, mental health awareness, especially before May being mental health month. Yeah. And I actually thought it was interesting how they did that because back in 2014, they did the Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, it's interesting. I didn't know about what the old Ice Bucket Challenge was until maybe a year or two ago. And, one of the things I think with social media is that it's a great way to promote things.
Yes.
Now, not to diss it or anything, the only issue that I would say with it is the fact that, the more it gets spread, I feel like the less people start doing it for the reason of speaking mental health.
They're doing it for views. They're doing it to
exactly.
trend,
and,
right?
I know that can be a little bit controversial because people are like, oh, I did it for this, and how can you say that, I did this, you don't know me.
Yeah.
And, I'm not trying to say that you're
no,
not.
but that's true. What you're saying is true. But
it kind of loses the meaning because I feel like it's kind of like the game telephone. You start with one thing and it goes through, and now it's like, what is this really that we're doing? So
right.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I'm nominated, pour the water on my head, nominate these people. I wish I would see more of like, hey, I was nominated for this, this is how I support mental health, reach out to your friends and family, ensure they're doing okay.
I love that, Carter.
Where's our bucket of water? We could pour it on him now.
I'll do it. I'll be the pour.
I'll give you the towel.
Appreciate
but you know what? You're saying this. I didn't even know. I know the old Ice Bucket Challenge. I didn't know there's a new one now.
But I love that maybe we can influence this trend and have people say this is how they support mental health before someone pours the bucket of water on them, right?
Right.
I think that would be a great trend out there, audience, if we can really get you guys to specify, I've conquered depression, I'm conquering anxiety, I'm doing this because I want to focus on mental health awareness.
In fact,
or whatever.
Carter can be catalyst. You can do it and then send it to us, and we'll put it on your video.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah.
I can definitely
awesome.
try from my apartment. I moved back in a couple weeks, so maybe better do it than in the shower. That'd be a little awkward. Yeah,
that would be great.
But no, I do think that there's so much potential for these challenges and the spread of these things on social media and how big social media has become a part of our lives and how we use it almost every day more than we interact with other people.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's a sad thing to say, but
sad.
Looking around campus, you see people just digging in their phone and kind of antisocial at times.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's the only way. Some people, it's the only way they can function.
It's like a coping mechanism that you just if you're afraid to talk to people, like, oh, I'm busy. Like, don't talk to me.
I mean, there are times, I'll be honest with you, there's times when I'm in social settings and I don't want to be engaged in people. I'll just get that phone out and just act like
it's easy to do.
And we also know it runs through the same addictive pathways in our brain as other addictions. And so
what are you trying to say, Carla?
I know that you're addicted. It's 100%. So.
Oh, now the truth is coming out. And are we all just a little bit?
But yeah, just the need to see what's going on, that need to be in the know, it's very addictive, I think.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, I would love to know, because again, we have a passion for college age. We have, we are really wanting to get on college campuses and really promote mental health. And that's one of the things that, Brandy and I are really passionate about. What do you see your campus doing for mental health, and how is it supporting its students that you're aware of? Yeah,
so at least for UT Arlington, we have an entire leadership program and like an organization that you can join and be a part of. Like, you don't have to, be a certain major or, have any, you can just join it whenever you want. And they go and they talk about, mental health to people, and they go out and they set booths out sometimes, like on the main road. And, there'll be people just talking about, that it's okay to not be okay, And I think that's something that college students need to talk about more. And, I watched some of y'all's old episodes and, realizing that a lot of people in college commit suicide just because of the stress and anxiety, and they feel like they can't get help, but I feel like within the past couple of years, the sources and the resources, for college students to get help has grown tremendously. And, actually it's funny, I was at the gym this morning, and I walked into the dressing room or the locker room or whatever, and if you look on the mirrors, they have a red stop sign that has help numbers on every bathroom, and even like in the dorms, it has something for like the mental health crisis line.
Okay.
They even have things for relationship, domestic abuse, all those kind of things with numbers, and I think it says like, you're not alone, reach out for help. And I think that's,
I love that.
I think that's so important.
Way to go, Horns!
Yes.
Way to do it, UT Arlington.
I think it's so important. And I remember when I first, came into my dorm and I saw it and I was like, what is this? Like, I'm glad it's here, but I was like, I think it's great. And I was like, I wonder if it's somewhere else. So, you start walking around the campus and you find that it really is
pretty
everywhere.
much everywhere.
It really is everywhere.
Do they, like during orientation, do they give you ideas of where the counseling resources are, where to go, what to do? Yeah. What do they even go over what to watch for? What are the symptoms?
They do. When I went to my orientation last June, part of their talk, to all the people before we split out into major groups and, you'd go explore the campus to your major, they would talk about, how important it is to stay connected with people and to not isolate yourself.
Yes.
And I know from personal experience that, isolating yourself in a dorm room for 2 weeks straight like that is not healthy. And you should not do it.
Well, man, it's like you said, though, those first 2 weeks.
And they're the most important time.
I remember my daughter, my youngest, she called me crying all the time in her dorm room. Mom, I don't like it here. I miss home. And, as a mama, I just want to be there. Yeah. But I was like, well, you're not coming home. But I'll come stay with you. But you're not coming home.
I think my mom could relate to that.
But at the same time, being so far away from your kids, it's hard. Even local, it's hard because it's hard seeing you guys adulting, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're adulting. Yeah. But the difference between you, and I feel like between you and a lot of other college kids at your age, is they're not connecting those dots of going, I'm not okay, like this isolation. Yeah. And because it can creep up on you fast, counselor, and it can creep up on you slowly.
Real fast.
And I think sometimes either way it can be a traumatic experience for you guys, right? Yeah. So the fact that you're listening to yourself and and let me ask you a question, because I often think this, you got bullied by these high school kids. What would, if you could go back, I don't know if this is even healthy to do.
To your high school self?
If you could go back to your high school self, or even to the people that bullied you, what would you say to them? Do you I know I'm putting you on the spot. No pressure.
Really what I would say is that, I'm sorry that they were probably going through something as well that, caused them to do something like that. I'm not the kind of person that's very aggressive. And I think they knew that, and that's why they could take advantage of me, because I was never going to...
I'm almost in tears hearing you say that.
Because he's got a big heart.
I was not going to fight back.
Carter has a huge heart.
I was not going to fight back. I'm not... you could punch me in the face, and I could be bleeding, and I still wouldn't punch you back.
Now, I do know when you get pushed to a certain level,
I will defend myself, yes, and my martial arts will kick in. But thankfully, it's never gotten to that point.
Self-control is part of martial arts.
That's probably why you are so reserved, though, because martial arts trained you to be. You could do some damage.
I'm a first-degree black belt. I did martial arts for 6 or 7 years in my hometown, Frisco. So, so that was actually very developmental for me with my mental toughness and being able to endure high stress situations without.
But let me just say to you, because you said his heart, and this makes me smile inside, because I expected you to say something a little harsh to these kids that bullied you, and that was not. I'm literally teared up when I heard him say, whatever struggles you were going through, whatever you weren't making them. The bully that bullied me, I still don't like the person till this day. But man, what a learning moment for me to hear from you.
And
Did you find forgiveness for them? And was that part of your journey to heal?
Yes, I think that's great that you mentioned that, with, there's like the stages of grief. I remember talking about that with working with you, that, first you have your denial and you just kind of like, no, this is not happening. Like, this can't be real. And then, towards the end, you start to forgive, and like even towards like yourself, like forgiving yourself. And I forgave myself for, all the things I've done to myself in the past, out of anger, frustration with, why do I feel so different? Why do I have this depression that is weighing me down so much that I feel like I can't even go to school, And I think maybe like my junior, senior year, I finally was able to sit down with myself and say, you know what, I love myself. This is okay. And I'm not necessarily mad at the people that, bullied me back in high school. And, if they were to reach out, I'd ask how they're doing. I'm not really I'm not just trying to sound fake, and it sounds kind of
no. I can attest that is 100% who you are.
Though. I mean, because someone really angry wouldn't say that.
Yeah,
right.
That's 100% Carter.
And what a teaching moment to all the other people out there that are listening to you, because I do think it takes more energy to be angry.
It does. And then I think even on top of that, it takes even more energy to forgive and to, overcome what you've gone through in the past and, forgive and forget kind of thing. But
wow, the amount of relief we feel and the ability and power that we get from forgiving, it is, I encourage people to work through that process, because by holding a grudge, you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting that other person. And you have to really realize the forgiveness is not just for that person, it's for you.
It reflects on other people too when you're
it's for you.
Just words of wisdom I'm hearing from you. Like, it's just so refreshing.
Wise beyond his years.
I'm telling you, what a therapist you had.
I've been through lots of therapy.
But so impressive to hear you talk about your heart for this. And if you were to tell high school kids, because we got to get him on college campuses with us.
I know. It's going to be
awesome.
We got to
do the Carter tour.
I'd be more than happy to go and speak,
Let's do
it. We know you could,
but
100%.
What would you tell high school kids right now, Carter, since you're in your freshman year? What would you tell high school kids right now?
I think I'd narrow it down specifically to juniors and seniors.
Okay.
I'll just say that group of people right now.
Yep.
Because I know, freshman, sophomore, there's other things.
They're still navigating.
Right. There's, but once you start moving and kind of creeping towards the edge of, I'm almost graduating from high school. Like, I think one of the biggest things that I personally had to overcome was my fear of the unknown. Going out and knowing, like, I don't have to go to school. I don't have to go do anything I don't want to, And I think it's so important to, reach out to people and, with being in high school, you should appreciate the time that you're there and, make your friends, but don't rush it, and don't rush so fast to be into college because, growing up, as a child, you'd always say, oh, I want to be older. I want to be able to do this on my own. I want to be able to drive my own car. I want to do all this on my own. And then you get there and you're like,
yeah, we just want to be younger now.
I can't say that because I still am pretty young.
Okay, thank you, Carter, for the reminder.
But, I do think that, in today's world, high schoolers are so pressured to have it all figured out.
Yeah. And you don't have to have it all figured out when you go to college.
Exactly.
You can change your major 3 times.
Exactly.
None of that
I'd
matters.
rather you do that than make the wrong decision.
To make the wrong decision. And I think I think you get pressured to, like, I got to make all these decisions. Well, make them, but realize that life happens and they can change and it's not a failure. It's not a failure.
Yeah. And then even through myself, I started as an aerospace engineer, and I thought I came into college knowing I was going to do engineering. Nothing's going to set me apart. Like, that's what I want to do. And then 2 weeks in, I'm like, not really my thing. And then I switched to business. And, from business, I was like, I don't really like business. And then I switched back to engineering. And then now I'm in music, which, I should have done from the beginning because, I'm very passionate about my music, and I've done music for a long time, and it is something that I want to continue for the rest of my life. And I think there's a lot of power in music.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like, incorporating that sometimes into therapy.
Yeah.
I would like to see that in the future. Like, I know
there are music therapists. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I,
Are they?
Yeah,
How's that
that's
work?
it's a whole credentialing for music.
It's kind of like an upcoming thing, right? It's becoming more popular.
There aren't a lot of them out there. Yeah.
So they do it through words or just music?
Music
With words or
both,
instrumental?
all kinds of music.
Okay, I'm interested now. That's
yeah,
very
it's interesting. Yeah.
Because I know music helps me. When I'm in a down mode, I'll just turn a good song on.
And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is very healing. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's important for people to understand that embrace those places where you're like, yeah, that's not it. Because in the end, what you choose to do in college, you got to remember your career is going to be there for a long time, and you have to be happy with it. You have to be engaged with it and really fulfilled by it.
Yeah, I think, as a high schooler, you just have to remember that, again, you're not going to have it all figured out, and you don't have to.
Right.
I thought I had to have it all figured out, but here I am. I'm still here. I'm, doing better than I was a year ago. And, I don't have it all
100%.
figured out. I don't know what I'm going to be in 5 years. I mean, I could totally change majors and do something different.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And I think that, again, there's just a lot of pressure, but, don't give in to those pressures and take your time.
Be true to yourself.
Just be true, and be truth to others too.
Yeah.
Don't be so focused on trying to be that one friend that just, is also great, A-roll student, but if you're not happy on the inside, or that there's things things going on, I mean, it's just your health is your wealth, really.
Yeah, your health is your wealth. I love that.
I stand by that, like, pride and true. My mental health comes before anything regarding my school.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to reach out to people and to, if you don't have a therapist and you feel like you need to see a therapist, like, go talk to one.
Yeah.
And
find a therapist that fits you. Like, I think a lot of people go to a therapist, they don't really connect with them, and then they think all therapy is bad, right?
Yeah.
But you have to keep trying on the one till you find the one that works for you, because every therapist has a different personality. They approach therapy differently, and we can't give it a bad rap because we didn't connect with one person. So keep trying until you find the right fit, because it can make a world of difference.
Or like you said, Carter, if they can't get into therapy for financial, whatever, the fact that they can utilize resources on campus.
100%.
And or a mentorship. Like, I could see you one day, if not now,
I would love to.
being able to reach out to other students and tell them,
hey, come talk to
look,
me.
I'll be there for you. I mean,
And
I
you
could
can't
talk to
solve-
him all day long.
Yeah, and he can't necessarily clinically solve the problems, but he
No.
can be a good listener and
sometimes
help
life
them.
experience is your best therapy.
Yeah, but just giving them that feeling connected, feeling heard, feeling
not
validated
alone.
can really make a difference, and then getting them connected with someone who can.
And I want to stress the part of listening. And I think there's so much value and power in listening to other people, because I know in my generation, we're so quick to assume, and we're so quick to just batter back and forth, about a conversation. But I've learned that when you just kind of sit back and listen for a minute and, just, start to absorb what people are saying to you, it can be really life-changing to hear what someone else is going through. And, I wish people would talk more about their mental health in college, because, I feel people just don't talk about it very much, because you feel like you have to be alone. You have to grow up. It's not something you can deal with because you're a grown-up now, and I think, as a college student, I would like to see more things talked about with college, like mental health.
Bringing that
Being
awareness
proactive
about.
instead of reactive, because I think the younger you are when you get into understanding mental health, it makes any journey or any boundary or any wall that comes before you in the future a lot easier, because you've been given those tools to navigate.
But I think it makes you a more successful adult. You handle situations at work better. You handle situations in your relationships better. You handle the situations with your future kids differently. But when you really learn how to manage mental health as a young person, it will benefit the rest of your life, right? It's going to give you the skills and the tools that you need to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, you got to start from the base.
Yeah.
Learn, about mental health, what it is, and really realizing how many people actually deal with mental health, and
so many
people don't say anything.
I mean, if we look at the recent statistics, 80% of college kids in the U.S. will acknowledge having issues with depression, anxiety, or some other form, and at least 46% are clinically diagnosable, right? And so those are some pretty big numbers.
And I feel we've had this discussion. I feel like those numbers are off because it's based on who comes forward. It's based on who actually talks about it. So normalizing this for people is what's key.
Yeah, and I think just, as being someone that wants to advocate, I encourage other people, even just people that are listening, to, reach out to other people, even if they're not in college, but just reaching out to people and asking how they're doing. Like, I know for me, at least, with finals going around and, it being close to the end of the semester, and, a lot of other freshmen that I know are really stressed out, and like, oh my goodness, I need to get this done. Like, this is so stressful, but this past week I've been reaching out to people and like asking like, hey, how are you doing? Even people that I haven't talked to in a long time, just reaching out and asking, because I find so much value in just acknowledging that someone's there and saying, hey, I'm here to listen to you. Like, if you need something, I'm here.
We need to clone a billion Carters.
I know. Carter is amazing. I really feel finding a way to start a trend in the month of May is maybe a trend that we can start on campuses, is just getting people to not be afraid to ask questions, to give compliments, to approach somebody. When you see somebody isolated and alone, or you see someone sitting by themselves, go up and ask them how their day is. Tell them that they look nice today. Tell them you like their shoes. Whatever. Make that connection, because there's so many stories out there where people have done things or have been in so much pain, and if one person had reached out, it could have saved a life. And so I feel like 100%. Yeah. So I feel like if we could make another trend for the month of May, it would be make sure that we're connecting with people. And when you see them isolated, connect with them. They don't have to be super cool, and they don't have to be one of the coolest kids there. That doesn't matter. Everybody matters, right? All lives matter. And so we want to make sure that we are letting them know that they're seen, letting them know that they're heard.
And encouraging you. Yeah. I encourage people, and it's something that I think Carla and I have experienced just as an adult. Sometimes we tend to socialize with the same group of people, with athletes or band people or whatever it is. And I have found that getting out and, socializing with different groups, whether it's a book club or a pickleball group or a weightlifting class, whatever it is.
You just find interest in so many different things. You get to learn so many things about other people.
So do that now, the young ones. I encourage you to do that now.
Month of May, get out there. Let's make this happen. Make it a trend.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think it's even more important that the actual college students are the ones that are reaching out and being the first to start something, because y'all can do so much, but at the end of the day, if people aren't being engaged and I mean, it's like talking to someone who's sleeping. Like, they're not going to listen. They're not going to remember what you say. They're not acknowledging it. But, but if people are engaged and actively trying to make a difference, I think having y'all on top of that, I mean, I feel like it could be...
Yeah, we're not the same age. There's no way we
can no one's going to listen to us. No, I'm just kidding.
They're like, well, let's get the broom out, clean off the cobwebs.
But I also want to point out, when you're connecting with other people, it not only helps their mental health, it boosts your mental health.
Yeah,
it really does make it. It makes me feel so good. And to know that you've made someone's day or made them smile.
And here's the deal. You never know. I've seen people's faces change when I just say randomly, hey, I love your hair or whatever. Yeah, they may look at me like I'm crazy.
They do look at her like she's crazy, but she will talk to anybody.
I will talk to anybody, and I believe in lifting people up, because, one, it opens up discussion, and it may be an awkward moment, and it makes you feel good, and you walk away, or, which has happened to me a couple times, or it opens up discussion to someone that you never even knew shared the common beliefs, interests, or teaches you something.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I've started doing, ever since I came to college, it's been my mission, I guess you could say, to wake up and make at least one person either smile or make them happy. And
I love that.
If I can't find anything else, I always know I can go to the dining hall and I say thank you to the person at the front desk. I also tell them to have a good day.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's so important to me that, having those little interactions, because, the people that work there, they're also in college, and they're also potentially stressed out, about their own things. Yeah. And, you know, it makes me happy seeing, you know, sometimes even just a little bit of a smile or them saying like, oh, have a good day too, you know, and it's become almost like a routine. So people, you know, they see me and I, you know, if I'm wearing headphones, I take my headphones off.
Like, here
and,
comes
you know,
Carter, here comes my
I tell them like, hey, like, have a good day.
I'd be saying that if you're coming to me like, oh, I get my daily
Get some
lift.
Carter time.
I got some Carter
It's
time.
a Carter time.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's so important to just, you know, do the little things because, you know, the little things really matter.
Little things make a big difference. Little things make a big difference. And, you know, if anyone wants to connect with Carter and figure out how to make some of these trends go across your campus, you can reach out to us. We'll get you connected to him and make sure that those things are happening, because really it's got to be the kids on campus. It's got to be.
We've just tagged a Carter's Calling. I think Carter's Calling is
hashtag Carter's Calling.
I'm going to do it. I'll do it when we
there
post.
we go.
Yeah,
there
hashtag
we go.
Carter's Calling. I do think that you're onto something, kiddo. I say kiddo.
You're kiddo to
it's
us,
an old person
but
term.
yeah,
it's an
you
old
know,
person term. Everybody's kid. My kid's 30 and she's kid.
It's a term of endearment.
It's a compliment, because if someone called me a kiddo, I'd be like, yes. It's not gonna happen.
When they card us, and I'm like, I know you're just being nice.
Yeah,
but
I don't even get carded anymore. I'm begging them. Can you see?
Come on.
You want to see
You want to see my
ID?
license,
Yeah.
please?
I know, I'm not.
Just ask for it, please.
Yeah, do something, please. We get old, this desperation, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do think that you're on something, Carter, and I am so thankful that you came on to our show to talk about it, because I know that your testimony and your walk through mental health is going to help other people.
Absolutely.
In high school and college.
Yeah.
And I know
Absolutely.
that you're not done.
I'm not
You're
done.
just
I'm just
getting
getting started.
started.
Yep. And you know, I'm really blessed to be, you know, here speaking today, because this is really a first time that I'm able to outreach, you know, to people who are listening, or, you know, even people who just need to hear something from someone their age, you know. And, you know, I encourage people to speak up, and, you know, you don't have to go as far as talking on a podcast about it, but, you know, at least, you know, talk to your friends and, you know, tell them like, hey, this is what's going on, and, you know, I need help. And, you know, with now college resources being such a available thing, I think we can make such a change, and a good change, you know.
Absolutely. That's why we promote real people, real issues, real talk. Getting people
Real
to
issues. Real talk.
Oh, it's real.
Real people.
Real people.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Carter, for being on our
Thank you,
show.
Thank
Carter.
you for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please reach out to talk to someone you trust. Get connected to a mental health professional who can help you find ways to cope and ultimately feel better. If you are having suicidal or self-harm thoughts, or thoughts of hurting another person, please go to the nearest ER, call 911, or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988. Thank you for tuning in to Mental Perk. We hope our talk today highlighted real people working through real issues based on mental health. Our goal at Mental Perk is to make sure every one of you knows you're worthy. We're in this together.